Disney, Zegler pulled a con so bold in London, audiences were screaming refund in 4 languages. Let's just say that thanks to Zegler, a bad publicity stunt, and a few hundred smartphones, the big number she was supposed to sing in Evita is now all over social media.
It's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
But it wasn't sincere because she's had a long history of saying woke, annoying things. Our new Snow White.
Rachel Zegler is extraordinarily woke, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
Rachel Zegler just got roasted by major Hollywood voices for being the most arrogant, ungrateful, and tone-deaf actress of her narration.
Very first actress in history to become box office poison before she ever came box office.
From destroying Snow White to sinking Disney's reputation, she's now the poster child for how ego and woke activism can nuke a career. They called her the worst actress in Hollywood history.
It was a wholesome family film, and now they've turned it into woke trash. Check this out from Wokeness. Disney's Snow White said that harm should befall Trump and his voters. Do not see this film.
Let's start from her pathetic journey of her career. At just 17, Rachel Zegler somehow managed to land the lead role of Maria in Spielberg's West Side Story in 2020. And look, kudos to her for that. That's a dream role. And Spielberg is no C-list director. She even snagged a Golden Globe for it, which back then made people think she was about to go full-blown Alistair.
Rachel Zegler's career launched when, at 17, she landed the role of Maria in Steven Spielberg's 2021 adaptation of West Side Story.
There were articles calling her the next big thing, casting directors fawning, studios drooling, and Disney. Oh, they thought they'd struck gold. They went all in on her for their shiny new Snow White remake, throwing over $200 million at this project like money grew on CGI trees. It didn't.
And Rachel Zegler, being 23 or whatever she is, like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infantada is the only global solution.
By 2025, the girl who was supposed to be Hollywood's sweetheart was no longer strolling red carpets. Nope. She was dodging pitchforks on Twitter, crying on stage during Evita, and getting mocked in memes for performing 2 empty theater seats.
An iconic song, yes, but it's the balcony grabbing all the attention.
Evita, by the way, got so desperate for attention that they started streaming her performance outside the venue like some sort of street act. Can't sell out a show? No worries. Slap up a screen and hope someone trips over it on their way to Starbucks. Tickets literally dropped to 0 online. Free, not a zilch. That's how much people wanted to see her sing about Argentina.
I think there will be people who are disappointed that she hasn't sung it live in the theatre, but I think it's going to be greatly outweighed by the theatricality of using film in that way.
But we can't blame the theater crowd entirely. Disney kind of set her up for failure that, with her help, of course. Rachel's casting as Snow White was controversial from the jump. The 1937 classic had a sweet, soft-spoken princess with fair skin, an old-school charm. What did Disney do? They brought in Rachel, who basically rebranded Snow White as a girl boss dictator with a superiority complex and a personal vendetta against fairy tales.
She's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
No one on the right side of America can stand the star of this movie.
I mean, you don't need to be a hardcore Disney fan to find that tone shift jarring. Families who grew up on the original just wanted a little nostalgia. What they got instead was a politically charged, modernized version of a classic that felt more like a TED Talk on empowerment than a magical story.
Here's actually Rachel Zegler, who is the new Snow White, and she's talking about Snow White being woke.
Can you tell us a little bit about your version of Snow White?
Yeah, I mean, Snow White is the girl you remember, but she's definitely made for the modern age, and there's such an emphasis on what it really means to be the fairest of them all. And for Snow White, it's coming to terms with finding herself and finding her inner voice and finding a sense of agency so that she can be a just ruler.
And Rachel, she didn't exactly help herself. She trashed the prince in the original as a stalker, said the love story was weird. and then had the audacity to say that Snow White's name wasn't even about her skin tone anymore. It's because she survived a blizzard. A blizzard. Who greenlit that rewrite? The same people who thought turning the 7 dwarves into glowing CGI blobs was progressive. Yeah, let's not even go there yet.
And then they couldn't put dwarfs because this is just so typical of the left. Progressive, always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive.
Back to Zegler, critics and audiences dragged her, rightfully so, for openly disrespecting the very character she was hired to play. Imagine getting paid millions to play Snow White and then going on a press tour telling the world how dumb Snow White is. That's like someone hiring Ryan Reynolds to play Deadpool and him saying, "Honestly, I hate superheroes and this suit smells like garlic." Oh wait, Ryan might actually say that, but at least he's charming when he self-sabotages. Rachel, not so much.
That at every premiere, everything I do, people will wait in line.
You heard that right. Zegler not only believes that she's a priceless work of art, she thinks she's sacred, and she doesn't just shout that into the mirror.
Fans weren't having it either. The hashtag #NotMySnowWhite blew up faster than her box office numbers collapsed. The internet collectively decided they were done watching celebrities destroy beloved classics just to prove how progressive they are.
I believe that there's something wrong with her. She's disturbed, she's unhappy, and she thinks it's about feminism and the patriarchy and about abortion.
People don't want their childhoods rewritten by someone who treats every interview like a slam poetry session about how awful the past was. And Rachel seemed determined to make sure nobody forgot just how much she disliked the original movie. The character, the prince, the romance. Honestly, I'm shocked she didn't trash the apple too.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Weird. We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie.
This girl managed to alienate everybody. Like full-on tour-level alienation. You'd think a rising star would know how to handle a little fame. Smile, wave, thank your fans, repeat. But not Rachel. One fan sang a line from West Side Story to her. While she was at Chili's, instead of saying thank you or even faking a smile, she told Jimmy Kimmel the guy ruined her night. Who says that? Thanks for being excited to see me, peasant. Now my enchiladas are ruined. Seriously?
In one clip, she calls the Sharks, the rival gang of the Jets in this new version of West Side Story, a rainbow of the Latino community, and then struggles to name what constitutes Latino diversity.
And it didn't stop there. At Disneyland during the Snow White ride, you know, the one that's literally themed after the movie she's starring in, she said she has to pretend to love people when fans stop her for pictures. Pretend she openly admitted she has to fake being nice to the people who keep her career alive. If that doesn't scream ungrateful, I don't know what does.
Hit the unfollow button. I don't need your business.
Babe, what business do you mean?
Let's talk numbers because this wasn't just a cringe fest, it was an economic disaster. Disney dropped over $200 million into making this Snow White remake. On top of that, they spent over $100 million more on marketing. That's more than some countries' GDPs. What did they get in return? An opening weekend in the US that barely scraped together $43 million. And it only got uglier. By week 2, the film took a nosedive with a 66% drop in sales. That's not a dip. That's a full-on Titanic moment. Lifeboats, screaming, the whole thing.
For a very long time, it seems that nobody has quite captured the public disdain like our girl, Rachel Zegler. The damage had been done.
Theaters started quietly yanking the movie from prime slots, pushing it to awkward midday screenings, or removing it entirely. In China, where Disney usually prints money, this thing pulled in less than $1 million. Less than $1 million. That's basically popcorn revenue. Final estimates around $150 million in total losses. That's the kind of failure that makes executives question their life choices. Like, someone at Disney probably retired early just to avoid answering emails about this mess.
She recently told that to a reporter and her psychiatrist that every inch of her body is built inside and out worship. My compassion has no boundaries.
So, yeah, go woke, go broke isn't just a slogan. Rachel Zegler turned it into a business model. She managed to offend the audience, disrespect the original creators, insult her own fans, and burn through hundreds of millions of dollars, all while crying on a balcony for a stage play that people were watching for free outside.
Snow White, they recreated it. You know, Disney's gone woke, as I keep telling you guys, even though a lot of the woke stuff is disappearing.
And let's not forget, there are hundreds of actresses in Hollywood who would have killed for the opportunities Rachel got. Instead, she took it all, rolled it into a flaming ball of ego, and kicked it directly into Disney's most treasured eye. Pie, talent or not, you can't teach humility. You either have it or you Rachel Zegler it right out the window.
And then they couldn't put dwarfs because this is just so typical of the left. Progressive, always finding a way to find their way back to doing something not progressive. You'd think the most progressive thing would be get people jobs, and dwarfs want to work. And
You thought the disaster stopped at box office numbers? Think again. We're not even halfway through Rachel Zegler's masterclass in self-destruction. Buckle up, because this second half is where things go from bad to catastrophic. It's like watching someone drive a Ferrari off a cliff, then getting out and blaming the cliff for existing. Let's talk about the part of the circus that really nailed the coffin shut. Wrote the dwarf disaster.
not that many scripts that come down the pike.
Only 7 of them.
And there's 7 dwarf jobs here. But because I think it was Peter Dinklage said this is, this is not right.